I'm excited to share this video with you today. We're going to talk all about how to refresh your website for 2024. A new year means new opportunities, and we definitely want to make sure that your website is set up, ready to help you crush your goals for the upcoming year. I'm going to share with you my top tips for updating your website's content and design, and even more, so that you can save time, attract your ideal clients, and make more money. So let's get to it. First, I want to chat about why you have a website. There's really no doubt that every business, no matter what you do, if you're a service provider or if you have products, you need a website, even if people are finding you on social media. You really need a place to find out more information about your business. I like to say a good website is like an employee who works for you 24/7, bringing in leads and making you money. And a bad website could be turning people off and costing you a lot in sales. Sometimes people tend to think of their website as a brochure website, meaning it's just there to showcase what they do. But in my opinion, if it's not producing any leads or making you money, it's not doing its job. And as a business owner, you really need to get this right, and it needs to make money for you. That's the whole point of your website. Let's talk about what you need to consider when it comes to your website as 2023 comes to a close and we're headed into that new year. We want to start the new year with your website in great shape, ready to make that money. But how do we do that? The first step is to look back. I want you to think about the past year. Think about all the clients you work with. Make a list. Is there a common thread between them all? Did you enjoy some projects more than others? Has your ideal client changed? I really love this process to do a year-end audit. I love to make a list of all my projects and write down the referral sources, and just really write down my thoughts about them and review everything. As you do it, think about what really lit you up and what you were excited to work on. And then consider the projects that really didn't go as planned. Write those down as well. Does anything have anything in common, either the clients or the projects? For me, I really loved working on some creative projects. I found that I just love working with brands who allow me that creativity and that freedom online. So that's kind of the common thread, and those are the type of projects that I like to call in for 2024. As you do this, you should really have some clarity on both of these things. The second step is to think forward. Think about your goals for the next 3 to 6 months. Write them down. Is it to promote a new course you have coming up? Did you just come up with a new service? Maybe you're thinking about doing group coaching instead of one-on-one consulting. Or perhaps you have a new shop. If you feel as though looking forward for a year is too much, think about the next 6 months or even just the next quarter. And your goals, don't have to be huge. It could just be maybe you have a new freebie that you're creating and planning to share, or just some new content that you have in the works. I typically do 2 sessions for this website review. The first is that look back and look forward. And then the second session is when I actually put everything into action on my website. If you can look at your calendar now, if you're watching this when it comes out, we're in November, see if you can pop 2 dates on your calendar in the next few weeks. One to do that look back and look forward, and then the second to implement. You'll really see a difference as we go into the new year. Now that you have all that information from that look back and look forward, here's what we're going to do with it. I want you to perform a content refresh on your website. Your website tells your story, and it's how you make those sales. And an end of the year refresh ensures that your content reflects your brand in this current moment in time and your goals for the upcoming quarter or year. Plus, it pings Google and lets them know you're still in the game. Every time you update that content, it just gives Google that little push to say, oh, you're still relevant, you're still working, and it boosts your SEO. How do we go about performing this content refresh? I want you to think about the journey of your ideal customer, the one that we talked about before. That's why we went through that exercise. So keep in mind who your ideal clients are as we go through this refresh. We're going to review your copy, your photos, and your calls to action, and you're going to ask yourself 2 questions. Does this website reflect who you are now? And does it reflect what you're working on in the future? And I want you to avoid doing one thing, adding. When it comes to your copy, you want to avoid adding. Clear and clever always wins. And as you're going through things, you're going to come up with all kinds of information that you want to add to your site. But I encourage you to modify or pare back what you have so it clearly states how you help your clients. As business owners, we want to share all the things on our websites, but that's not best practice. You just want to share what people need to know. We're busy. So get right to the point, how you help them and what they need to know, and remove unnecessary clutter. This clutter pertains to your copy. It fatigues your readers, and it invokes that paradox of choice, and it increases the likelihood of people not taking action. I find when people have too many options, they don't make one. Remove, reduce, and pare back. And while we're on the subject of clutter, this actually also pertains to your plugins if you have a WordPress website. Less plugins improves your page load time and definitely can result in less conflicts. So take a peek at those as we're thinking about removing that clutter. You can make this content refresh as in-depth or as simple as you want. Today, I'm going to share with you my top tip for each of your most important pages, the home, about, services, and contact. And if you refresh these pages with this one idea, it will make a huge difference. Let's talk about the home page. Every website has a home page, and depending on what you do in your business, this page will look completely different. But there is one thing that is always present. It's the words that you say at the top of the page. This is the first thing someone will read when they land on your website. And you need, right away above the fold, that prime real estate to answer these questions. What you sell, why that matters, how it's going to help make their lives better, and how they can do business with you. My favorite 3 words, calls to action. This is what your ideal client needs to understand before they start exploring any more around your website. If your website says, "Welcome to my website," or it has words that people can't understand, your prime real estate is wasted and people are going to be confused. They're not going to know if they're in the right place. To illustrate this point, I'm going to share with you what my homepage says. At my homepage, right above the fold, it says, "A website that's high performing as it is gorgeous." Yes, please. Stylish, strategic websites designed to make you money with a button that says learn more. It's clear what I do, who I work with, what you're going to get out of it, and then there's that button, a call to action. And you'll notice on my hero, it's a photo with 2 simple sentences, and up top of my navigation there are 3 options. Nothing is wordy, nothing is complicated. These words that people see when they land on your website can determine if someone stays and scrolls down or if they leave because they are confused. We typically call them the brand statement, but they definitely establish if your ideal client is in the right place or not. And it's important to get this right to provide that instant connection so that they want to keep scrolling on your site versus clicking away. That's my biggest takeaway for the homepage. This above the fold hero section. It is so important. The next page we're going to talk about is the about page. This is the page that there are so many different ways to go about it. And I really think it's your personal preference. Some people enjoy telling long stories about why they do what they do. Other people like fun lists, likes, dislikes. Sometimes videos are great, kind of like your video business card. Some people have quizzes. I think whatever you want to share that shows your personality is the best fit. But I want to say 2 things about this page. It's important to remember that it's about your customer, your client, your ideal client, not you. You want to bring your personality to this page, but you want to share more about why you are the best fit to fix your ideal client's problems. And that's really important to remember. You don't want to just list all your credentials in your bio and how you majored in finance in college. That's the first thing on the about page. But the most important thing, I think, that matters most on this page are the photos. You want to let people come to see this page and see a smiling face, or if you have a team, smiling faces. If you have a product or location, images of that as well. For an example, a restaurant, you could show the interior of a restaurant or some products that are your best sellers. And on those faces, you want to be sure that you're looking people in the eyes, looking directly at the camera so that your potential client can connect to you. Pictures are what connects us to others through the computer. I find that brand photography is something people often wait too long before doing because it can feel expensive and overwhelming, especially if you aren't making a ton of money quite yet. But if you can invest, I say do a paid shoot. Even if it's just a mini shoot, having professional pictures for your website makes an incredible difference. Not just connecting with your ideal client, but you'll see the difference in your self-confidence and how you represent yourself online and in person. And if you're not ready to have a photographer take some pictures of you, then stage a fun shoot. I mean, we all carry around these incredible cameras in our pockets, our phones. So stage some pictures and use those. You definitely want your ideal client to see you. If you're local to me, there are some amazing photographers I know that I would recommend. So feel free to leave a comment or shoot me a message and I'd be happy to connect you. Let's move next to the services page. This is another page that varies, but essentially it's your sales page. And this advice applies to your services page or if you have a full-length sales page for a course or a program. You want on this page to share about what it is that you do, what it does for them, and how you help make their life better. You want to really focus on what it does for them, not what it is. And keep focused on those results throughout the whole page. But the most important thing in my mind on this page is pricing. When, where, and how you talk about it. I'm going to assume a lot of us are service providers. You want the pricing to come after what you've shared and what it does for them, that info. You want to be clear about the pricing. You don't want it to be hard to find, not tucked away in a paragraph that people have to search for. Make it easily scannable and decide with intention what you want to do. And I mean that because there are multiple ways that you can go about this. You could share an exact price for each package, a range, or even a starting price. What's important is that right after the price, you want to make sure that you have a call to action and give them a quick and simple next step. If they see that information and want to act on it, you want to make sure that that button, that buy button, schedule a call or reserve now is following that price. I know some of you watching may be cringing about listing prices on your website, but I really think that it is important. You don't want to waste everyone's time. There's really nothing worse than getting on a consultation call, sharing your price of $5,000 and making the person who has a budget of $500 feel uncomfortable and not know how to react. Plus, you've wasted both of your times. If you don't want to put the full price, then a range or a starting price. I think that's a great idea. I typically do a range. Clients typically spend with me between X and X. I'd rather have fewer qualified leads than an overwhelming bunch of unqualified leads. I have a whole nother episode on pricing. I'll link it below if you're curious and you want to watch on that. And finally, there's that contact page. There are a ton of important things on this page. For service-based providers, this is typically your next step in the process when someone is serious about working with you or has questions. Typically, you'll have a form on here. Hopefully, it's integrated with your CRM to help move people through the sales funnel. You'll typically have first and last name, an email address, and then what is this regarding or what services that they're contacting you about, maybe how they found you. There's one thing that is a must-have on this page, and that is an email address. Most of us include a form, but skip that email address on the contact page. The email address is so important. It allows people to reach out regardless of why they're contacting you. When you have just a contact form, you really are limiting the people who can reach out to you with the questions that are on the form. And an email allows for all options. They can email you to speak at an event, ask you to be on a podcast, maybe they want to give you a free product to post about. And that form just gives them the options. It's very limiting. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to email someone and I can't find their email on their website. It's really important. And a bonus up level on this page, Add a photo of you. It gives that person a sense of who you are, and it makes that emotional connection. I have found that it really does increase conversions. Now, as part of that look back that we talked about earlier, I encourage you to take a peek at your analytics while you're doing that. I want you to think about 3 analytics. The first one is where people are finding your website. How are people even getting to your website? What are the traffic sources? And this is really important because it can show you where you need to focus on more and what isn't working. For example, I'll use me. I love Instagram. It's beautiful. It makes me happy. And I used to spend a lot of time there. And Pinterest is a lot of work. It's very tedious. But after looking at my analytics, I found that most of my traffic was actually coming from Pinterest and not Instagram. So for me, I knew where I needed to spend my time. I needed to spend more time pinning versus enjoying that beautiful aesthetic of Instagram. And it's important for you to understand where your traffic is coming from so that you know where to put your efforts into. The next one you want to think about is where people are clicking on your website and where they're exiting. This is that behavioral flow in Google Analytics. And it tells you 2 things: what pages they're going on. So for example, if you had some great blog posts, maybe those are getting a lot of tractions, people are entering there. And then what pages they're leaving your website on. And this is important because if you know where people are leaving, you can look at that page and see if you have enough calls to action. If you're actually guiding the potential client on their journey to the next step. Perhaps there's a dead end. I like to say no dead ends on your website. You can look at that page and see if you can make some changes to make sure that people are staying on your site longer. And finally, this is the creepy one: who is on your website? It's important to know who's actually looking at your website, where they live, what their gender is, if they're on a phone or computer, and what other type of websites they're visiting from. All of this is like that super stocky information that you can find from Google, but it's important. If you have a brand that caters towards women and you notice that a lot of men are visiting your website, then you know that something's off in your marketing and your messaging. And that gives you an idea of what you can work on to fix this. It's important to know who your audience is so that you're attracting your ideal client that you had in mind from our earlier exercise. Now I'm going to share with you a checklist of things that I like to do each year. I've created a handy Google Doc for you. I will link that in the comments below so that you can kind of go through the list of things and make these changes to your website as the year comes to a close. The first one is testimonials. Remember that look back that we took? If you haven't already asked, contact a few previous clients and ask for a testimonial to update your website with. If you don't have any or you want to get more, I have 2 ways that you can go about doing this. The first is to send a questionnaire. I typically build this into my process. I do this as the second to last step in my development process. I have a short Google form and I ask my clients questions to prompt them. I always include information that pulls out what I'm looking to get. For example, I ask, what were you struggling with on your website before? How do you think this updated look will impact your business? What was your favorite part of working together? What surprised you and what did you find most valuable? And at the end, I ask for their permission to use and modify their reviews. For me, I also always ask them to post on Google and I link to my Google business page. If it's easier for you, just send a link to that Google business page, which I hope you have one. And they can leave a testimonial there, and then you can harvest it and put it up on your website. You want that testimonial to be short and punchy with specific outcomes. Exceeded expectations, saved me time, made me money. If you can use statistics, increase conversions by 25%, things like that. The second item I want you to look at are dates and numbers. Go through your copy, look for dates, look for numbers. For example, if you had team members, did you hire more people? Or perhaps in your bio, you've mentioned you've been working as a coach for 10 years. Now it would be 11. Or if you share the number of clients that you've worked with, you probably can add a bunch for this past year. And it goes to mention that when we're talking about numbers, make sure you're updating that little copyright date at the bottom of your website. It's important. It does so much for your know, like, and trust factor. There's nothing worse than going to someone's website in 2024 and seeing the date 2023 there. It makes you question if this business is still working and if it's still in service. The third item is forms. Head over to your forms, give them a test run. Do they work properly? Are you receiving the correct auto-response emails? Do they bring people to the appropriate page after submission? Next up is pop-ups. Open your website in an incognito browser to ensure that you see that pop-up. Fill out your information, put in your email, and make sure, did you get that freebie? Where are you redirected after you enter that info? Does that page need to be updated? That's important. Number 5 is phone numbers. Typically, if we're listing our mobile phone, chances are it's totally fine. But if you use a service like Google Voice, just give that a call. Make sure it works, because this is how you're getting your leads. Number 6 is your broken links. Head over to brokenlinkcheck.com. You put in your URL, and then voila, you have a list of all those broken links. And it happens. It's just something you should do, and just check and make sure that you can fix them on a regular basis. Number 7 would be simplify how to reach you. On that contact page, make sure that form is really easy for people to fill out. If it's really long, maybe you can remove a few questions. And again, make sure your email is listed. Simple is always, always better. Number 8 is remove obsolete materials. Do you have a coming soon listed on some pages, or perhaps you were starting a page or a blog post and then nothing came of it? Delete that obsolete material. You don't need it anymore. Number 9, review your tech stack. How many pieces of tech do you use on your website? Is your CRM integrated? For me, I use HoneyBook. I love them. I integrate them on my website. Some people use Dubsado. Same thing goes for email marketing. I use ConvertKit. You could have MailerLite. But did you buy something new? Perhaps you bought a course platform or software that you wanted to replace something that you're currently using and you didn't get around to it. Cancel what you don't need and consolidate. Simple, again, is always best. Number 10 is update your passwords. End of the year is a great time to do this. If you use a software like LastPass, it's very simple to do. And if you don't, then consider using a strong password generator. There's a passwordgenerator.com. If you don't, and you can get a really strong password. You want to make sure that you change these passwords. Number 11, check your privacy policy. Have the laws changed? Is your contact information still correct? Has anything changed since you created the policy? This is really important because the laws do change quite frequently. I actually have a service for my clients, Termageddon, that automatically updates the policy every time the laws change, so there's nothing for them to do. It's a great resource if you don't have a privacy policy, or if you do but want it to auto-update. I can link that as well in the show notes. Number 12 is that you want to update your software. If you are on a care plan, your web designer is probably taking great care of your site, like I do for all my clients. But if you aren't, be sure that you're updating all your software behind the scenes. For example, I mean your plugins, your WordPress version, your PHP. It's really important to stay up to date so that you can minimize those conflicts and vulnerabilities. 13, check backups and hosting. Make sure you can log into your hosting providers, and that you can access your backups. Make sure everything's working and that backups are being saved for at least a month back. Because in the event that something goes wrong, you need to be able to roll to that backup so that you don't lose your website. And finally, let's talk about the trends for 2024 that I really see are going to be great resolutions to put into place on your website. The first one, you probably could have guessed this, artificial intelligence. And by this I mean chatbots. Chatbots are going to be really popular for the upcoming year. And using AI, they can predict users' buying patterns and the products that they might use and like, and as well as the questions that they're going to ask and the answers that they should receive. So I think that we're going to see a lot of AI in our websites for the upcoming year, specifically in the form of chatbots. The second trend or resolution for 2024 that is important is conversational copy. Copy that is written in a familiar human tone. With the rise of AI, Google's taking notice. And I think we're going to see that people really want that genuine connection and that human copy written in a human voice. That is going to be more important than ever for the upcoming year. The third thing is video content. And this has been on my list for the past 5 years. Video keeps people on your website longer and it engages them in your content. And people work with people. Video helps your potential clients get to know, like, and trust you in a much faster way. You can even consider using AI in the video as well as you create it. Number 4 is the interactive freebie. What I mean by this is that sometimes people come to your website and they aren't ready to buy, especially if it's a large ticket item. And that's definitely okay, but you don't want them to walk away and forget about you. You want to give them some valuable information that will help deepen the relationship with them. And that's where your irresistible freebie, your opt-in, comes into play. I think that for 2024, PDFs aren't going to be as big as they used to be. I think that it's more about the interactive freebie. So think about quizzes. Think about short courses. I have a private podcast that I've done on my website as my newest freebie for the upcoming year. Things like that that are giving immense value but aren't the standard PDF. That will be really big for the upcoming year. The next one is optimizing your Google business listing. I think that that's going to continue to be a really important piece of the puzzle. Again, Google kind of manages everything when it comes to SEO. So ensuring that your business listing is optimized and that you're posting content to it to drive Google and people back to your website. The next one is helpful and valuable content, specifically on your blog. Content creation is so important, be it blogging, podcasting, YouTube videos. Like I said, you want a place where you can share your educational content with others and establish yourself by an expert. And this is going to be really important. With the rise of AI, there's more content out there than ever. But the question is it helpful and is it useful? Think about your content and make sure that you are going above and beyond, and Google will for sure take notice. And finally, I think that custom illustrations are going to be important for the upcoming year as well. Custom illustrations, if it matches your brand, just increases that personal connection and it kind of stops the scroll. So for the upcoming year, think about how you can incorporate some hand-drawn elements or some custom graphics into your website to create a little bit more of a personal connection. All right. That wraps up my tips for refreshing your website for 2024. I hope you found this video helpful and you got some great ideas as you are thinking about sprucing up your website. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming business tips. I wish you a ton of success in 2024. Have an awesome website refresh.